Welcome everyone, this is Dr. Clark, the Center for Weight Loss Success. Tonight on Losing Weight USA, we're going to talk a little bit about some dieting mistakes. We refer to as top 10 dieting mistakes, but also kind of what to do about them as well. Obviously, there's probably a lot more than 10 we could talk about, but still we'll kind of give these our best shot, so to speak. All right, here's the official welcome. Welcome to Losing Weight USA. This is your kind of real-time answers to your weight loss questions, some of the latest updates and kind of what's going on in the science out there, and a little bit of expert advice. Gives you direct access not only to me, but you should be receiving the health tips and recipes via the membership portal. If you think of questions during the presentation, just type them in during the presentation. If you think us into the chat box, we'll get to them at the end. If you think of things once we're all done, just give us a yell here at the Center for Weight Loss Success. The email is success@cfws.com. Phone number 757-873-1880. All right, so some of the top 10 dieting mistakes, and let me flip these. Oh, one thing before I switch that over. If you've had surgery recently, if you're getting into the membership site, make sure you get this little app. It's probably not showing up too well. It's probably backwards too, since I'm holding it up there. But anyway, it's a Kajabi app. You should be, once you get that on your smartphone, you just hit it, you're in. Okay, that's really easy. And subsequently, then you can get all these replays as well as all the fitness stuff, behavioral modification classes, all the menu and recipe type things are all right there for you. All right, so where were we? I'm going to flip this over here on the screen. Very good. We have got it. All right. So dietary mistakes. All right. We all make them. Okay. Especially when we're trying to learn something new or starting something new. It's a new diet, or it doesn't matter what we're talking about. Okay. We all make mistakes, especially trying new things. And it doesn't matter what we're talking about, new fitness routine, whatever it is. When we try something new, we tend to make mistakes. Weight loss is just one of them. Mistakes you really need to think of as opportunities to change. Okay? We tend to learn our most when we make mistakes. If we went through life doing things perfectly, we wouldn't learn all that much. Okay? Mistakes are an opportunity to change. Gives us a good reason, a good lesson, life lessons out there. So we're going to talk about some of these common mistakes during weight loss and also kind of what can you do about them. All right, so mistake number one, and I've said this over and over, working on weight loss just doesn't work. Okay, we often would like a quick fix. Here's a quick fix. Here again, we can do this and we will get what we want. There aren't many quick fixes in life, and certainly with weight loss, there is no quick fix. Kind of the skills to control weight, the skills to control health have to be learned. And in order to learn something well and make it a habit, that means they have to be practiced. And when we start practicing, we typically make mistakes. We don't do as well, but the more we practice, the better we get. And again, this is true with anything in life. Great athletes still need practice. Okay, that's how they got to be great athletes. They're practicing over and over and over and over, and they make mistakes and they learn from those mistakes. But kind of working on weight loss doesn't work well. Just like with athletes, kind of trying to make the Olympics, that won't work very well either. Commitment is absolutely essential. Just don't expect perfection. There isn't going to be perfection. And we're going to make mistakes and just kind of learn from those mistakes. What do we do about that? And then knowing how to improve is often kind of the bigger battle there. It's not just that we're going to make mistakes, because we are going to make mistakes. We are not going to be perfect at doing this. It's learning to it and then adjusting and kind of making the practice, doing the practice, putting in the time that we can actually learn from this. So again, working on weight loss never works well. So it's like, I'll work on it harder, in the spring. There's no time like the present. Working on it just does not work well. All right, mistake number two, making weight loss too complicated. Sometimes we want to say, you got to do this. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. Okay. Yes, weight loss is hard. There's no doubt about that. But you really still need to stick with the basic concepts. The cornerstones to the building have to be strong. Stick to the basic concepts. Yep, we're going to have to make dietary changes. We are going to have to make some behavior changes. We are going to have to work on increasing activity and fitness. Okay. All those things, they're true. And it really doesn't matter, if you want to talk about specific diets, but basically it's all going to be working on those things. Specific diets are just kind of an outline, a recipe to kind of do this. We still have to, in order for success, we do need to kind of make these changes. And going back to the last week when we talked about that, with any behavior change, what are those two questions again? Can I do it, and is it worth it? You need to be able to answer yes to those two questions. Can I do it, and is it worth it? If you can't, then it's not really going to be a behavior change. It's just going to be a temporary something that you did. So, but you do have to stick with the basics there. Then once you really have those basics down, then we can start manipulating some of these more, little tidbits of information, adjusting these other little things that are out there. But you have to get the basics pretty well down. And so slowly work on developing those three areas, and you will continue to make progress. And just realize it is a work in progress, in that we start to have to adjust things, what works better for certain people. But don't make this too complicated. It doesn't have to be. I can always oversimplify everything. I won't go digress too far in that. But anyway. All right, mistake number 3. Mistake number 3 is not exercising. We're just thinking, gee, I can't exercise. Everybody can exercise. Doesn't matter. Whether you're stuck in a wheelchair, whether you can exercise. There are certain things you can do, and it's absolutely essential to preserve lean body mass. Reality is that we lose as we age. Okay, after about the age late 20s, early 30s, is that you're going to lose about 1% of your lean body mass per year, which also means you're slowing your metabolism down every year, even if you're doing your activity exactly the same. Activity staying the same, diet staying the same, you're going to slow your metabolism down. So the same dietary plan isn't going to work as well as the metabolism slows. And that's a normal part of aging. So you want to prevent that as much as possible, prevent that loss of lean body mass. And to do that, it's going to take activity. It's going to take exercise. Weight training is probably one of the best exercise for preserving lean body mass. But no matter what, keeping active. Okay? A pound of muscle burns a lot more calories than a pound of fat. Okay? They look a lot different too. A pound of muscle is probably only about a third of the size of a pound of fat. Okay? But also well-trained muscle is going to burn a lot more calories than couch potato muscle. So it's not just having a certain number of pounds of muscle. It's how well-trained it is. That's how really well-trained athletes can actually burn, thousands and thousands of calories per day, because well-trained muscle burns a lot more calories than untrained muscle does. And overall, long-term, your metabolism is dependent on this. And so we need to stay as active as possible. And again, everybody can exercise. There's always something you can do. So when people say, well, my knees hurt. Okay, well, let's work around that. Okay? My knees, my hips, my back, whatever. Okay, we can work around this. That's why we have sit down with personal trainers and things like that can help you figure some of this stuff out. But it's very, very important long-term. Preserving lean body mass. Absolutely essential. Now, I'm going to back up into that, just the mistake number 4 before we get there. It's just that it's an incredibly rare person, though, that can exercise themselves to weight loss. How many times does someone come in and tell me a day that, gee, I'd be losing more weight if I were exercising? Well, that might be true, but it often might not be true either, because weight loss typically doesn't make you exercise typically doesn't make you lose weight faster. It will tend to make you lose weight a lot longer and a lot easier to keep that weight off, but it doesn't necessarily make you lose weight faster there. I mean, it's the dietary side of that typically is going to help you with the weight loss. Exercise, preserving lean body mass. Okay, keep metabolism high as possible. rare person that can exercise themselves to weight loss. All right, mistake number 4, kind of avoiding the scale. You don't say, well, gee, I don't really, there are other ways I can measure my success. Well, the scale is probably the best one that we have. It's the easiest one that we have. And so avoiding the scale is just a form of denial. Okay. As I've said over and over again, you ought to weigh yourself every day. The best time to weigh yourself is early in the morning. And the reason to weigh yourself every day is not just to look down and go, oh, good or oh, bad. The reason is to kind of compare what it was yesterday to now and what potentially over the last 24 hours is influencing that weight right now. It may be something as simple as, hey, it's for women, it's time for my cycle. It may be I didn't poop today. It may be I had extra salt yesterday. But you'll also figure out the little things that will matter in the long run. It's like, gee, if I do this, it seems to help my weight loss. If I do this, it seems to work against my weight loss. There's no way to do that if you don't kind of look at that almost daily. Say, well, I weigh myself once a week. Well, it's really hard to look back at a week period of time and go, this is what I did differently. Because you're going to think, well, I did the same thing just about every day. No, you didn't. We do different things every single day. And so subsequently, then you can figure out those little things that matter. And in the long run, that's going to be extremely helpful. The scale is the best monitor we have. And the most successful dieters weigh themselves routinely. The best time is early in the morning. It's your most accurate weight. Typically, weight goes up during the day. So if you forget to weigh yourself in the morning, don't bother. Wait till the next day. But try to get in the habit. Stand on the scale every morning. Reflect. And the point, again, is reflect on the previous 24 hours. What was it about that previous 24 hours that could affect my weight today? Mistake number 5, believing that genetics are responsible for your weight. Certainly genetics are influential. There's no doubt about that. Apples tend to fall close to trees, that old saying. Okay. But that's really also an excuse. Weight is more likely contagious rather than inherited, meaning that we tend to do similar things when we're surrounded by similar people, our family, our friends, and so subsequently then I like to refer to it more as being contagious rather than inherited. Now, again, that doesn't mean genetics don't play at all, but believing that genetics then that's the reason, and that's the reason that's responsible, not actually me, that's an excuse. Mistake number 6, giving in to saboteurs. I love that word, saboteurs. And it tends to be friends, family, acquaintances. Yeah, you deserve this. A little bit won't hurt. I made this specially for you. It's the holidays. We're celebrating. There will be saboteurs out there. There's no doubt about it. There will be saboteurs. So you need to figure out ways to say no thank you. And you need to be able to do it in multiple different ways. Okay? So deflect the comments by changing the topic, explain to them the importance of what you're trying to do. You actually want to recruit them to be helpful for you and that you value their support as opposed to, gee, this isn't really helping me. You want to kind of recruit them to actually help. This is what I'm trying to accomplish, why I'm trying to accomplish that. Share with them. And if they truly won't get on board, spend less time with them. Now, I realize we can't get rid of our family and our closest friends. I mean, there's not a reason to, but still, if you need to spend less time with them, spend less time with them. And sometimes that has to be the answer. Mistake number 7, being inconsistent. What I mean by that is that in order to kind of get our most out of weight loss, we need to be consistent in what we do. We often feel like, hey, we need to celebrate a little bit, and that's true. We do need to celebrate successes, but we don't necessarily have to be with food there. Often people think, well, I'm going to take the weekend off, or I deserve this vacation and I can splurge. but consistency goes along with commitment. Okay? And again, the world's best athletes, they may take short breaks from what they're doing, but they are working all the time. They work hard at that. And consistency is very, very important in weight loss too. It's really easy to gain weight. And our bodies are built to gain weight. And again, we talk about insulin all the time. Insulin makes you gain weight really quick. It's really hard to lose weight. A bad weekend, gee, I'm going to splurge this weekend and go out and celebrate. A really bad weekend, you can easily gain 5 pounds. And most people I can gain 4 or 5 pounds over the weekend. And it's going to take you a couple of weeks to get that back off. So is that really worth it? Well, only you can answer that question. I realize that. Can I do it? Is it worth it? Those are the things you have to ask yourself. But an important thing to do is write down, what are your motivations? Why am I actually doing this? Is it just, gee, I want to look better? That's not going to motivate you too much. There needs to be very real things to you. And what's real to you is not going to be real to the next person. So write down your motivations for weight loss and then carry them with you. Review them off them. Stick it on your bathroom mirror, on your refrigerator door, at your desktop, on your screen. Have it as a screensaver. What's your motivation, so you can review them over and over again. This is why I'm doing this. This is where I want to go. And it's very, very important. That's an important part of it. We need consistency. Mistake number 8, not eating enough. And that common thing is that, gee, I'll cut this back. I'm not getting the results I want. I'll just keep cutting back a little more. And that common thing is that less is better. Starvation has never been a good weight loss plan. Now, obviously, we talk about fasting. The starvation and fasting are 2 different things. Okay? Just as a simple explanation. Starvation is we have no idea when our next meal is coming. Fasting is I know when my next meal is coming. I'm just choosing not to have it quite yet. But starvation has never been a good weight loss plan, but also just cutting calories way down too low. And part of the problem with just cutting calories, we use that old calories in, calories out. Yes, there's something to that. There's no way around that completely. But just cutting back on calories, basically, as the more you cut back on your calories, the slower your metabolism is going to be. And those studies were done 60, 70 years ago, in that they would put people in semi-starvation diets and just to see what happened to them. I'm going to digress here for a minute, just because it's kind of a good story. Is that around the World War II, when there were, and shortly thereafter, were there people being drafted into the military, and there were people that basically refused to go in the military. They weren't going to do this, and so at one point they actually gave groups of them a choice. It's like, okay, if you're not going to the military, you need to go into this study. And they had some of these really aggressive studies. Look, what happens to people if we almost starve, semi-starvation diets? So they cut their calories way, way down, and they look at what happens to people. Okay. And what they found is that they didn't lose nearly the weight that they should have, just from a math perspective, because they would keep very close account of how many calories were actually given them. And so it was very low calories, near starvation type diets. And so subsequently then, what happens to people? Well, they found, people didn't lose nearly the weight they should have. And it's because they found, hey, when you cut calories way down, metabolism just slows way down. That's a survival benefit. And so that if we miss, a number of calories for an extended period of time, then we won't just keel over dead. Okay. So typically, no, it'll slow our metabolism way down, and subsequently then they don't lose nearly the amount of weight that you would think they would. So point there being is starvation has never been a good weight loss plan. It will slow your metabolism significantly. So just cutting back on calories doesn't work well. Okay? And I won't get into the fasting side of the whole thing, but with fasting, you actually boost your metabolism somewhat, not slow your metabolism. There's a limit to that statement about how long that actually will occur, but actually with short-term fasting, metabolism actually goes up Fasting and starvation, two different things. So anyway, not eating enough is a very real scenario. Okay? And so subsequently then what do we do instead of that? Okay, and I won't get into that too much there because it does get into that, how fasting works, and that we talked about that, and I beat it all the time. So kind of along those lines, and you'll notice, okay, if you're looking at the slides, is that I have the slides set up. The mistake number 9 is skipping meals. Now you'll notice if you're looking at the slides, I just actually X'd out the whole thing. Is because we used to teach this all the time, that skipping meals is bad. But actually, that was more urban legend than anything. Okay, and we used to always say skipping meals, especially breakfast, you should never skip breakfast. Okay, that was truly urban legend. There's no scientific evidence that actually is true. Now, having said that, talking about breakfast just a little bit, not just, this is skipping meals, not necessarily a bad thing. All right, but breakfast specifically. A lot of people wake up, they're not hungry. And so to make someone eat when they're not hungry generally isn't a good weight loss plan. Okay? The issue there is, there are some very good reasons to take breakfast. Breakfast will actually bump your metabolism up. So when we eat, yes, your metabolism does go up somewhat. So that can actually bump your metabolism. So that's not a bad thing. The issue there is, what are you actually eating? Okay. So what tends to happen, though, if you're one of those people who like to skip breakfast and then you get to lunch and you're going to have your normal, healthy lunch, great, skip breakfast. On the other hand, though, you skip breakfast and you get to lunch and you're getting ready to, I'm not going to eat anything that's not nailed down, that's a problem. And that may mean that, okay, you should have had breakfast. Part of it depends on what you have for breakfast. There have been very good studies that show people that, depending on what you have for breakfast, if you have a high carbohydrate breakfast, those people tend to eat about 250, 300 calories more per day than they would if they hadn't had that high carbohydrate breakfast. The flip side is, you have a high protein type breakfast, and typically you actually tend to eat less throughout the day. And it has to do with stable blood sugars there. So I won't get into too much right now. We'll talk about carbohydrate sensitivity in the near future, I imagine. So anyway, mistake number 9, skipping meals, I've kind of crossed that one out. May or may not matter. Okay. So should you skip breakfast or not? Right, depends. Depends on how you do with skipping breakfast. It may actually be fine. Again, for those of you that are going to eat everything not nailed down, then maybe it's not a good idea to skip breakfast. Now, a good breakfast start is, okay, using kind of a protein shake is subsequently a good way to get your protein in for the day, or a good start on that for the day, as well as subsequently then hopefully it's fairly satisfying for you, and it kind of keeps you from eating everything that's not nailed down at lunch. All right, so that the thinking there is changing. That's definitely true. Mistake number 9, then, kind of getting back to kind of what the really thing is, thinking that timing doesn't matter. So even though I call it mistake number 9, skipping meals, but I replaced that slide with this one. Mistake number 9 really is thinking that meal timing doesn't matter. It does. And timing matters. We've been talking about this a lot over the last few months, actually. And the same amount of food, eaten 2 different ways. One is a little bit all throughout the day versus 2 or 3 meals. 2 or 3 meals works much better. It's because the insulin response, you must realize that anything you eat, anything that has calories in it, will raise insulin levels. So subsequently then, timing does matter. Eating a little bit all throughout the day has never been a good weight loss plan. Okay. And also the exact same meal eaten at 2 different times. Say the exact same components of a meal eaten at, say, 5 in the afternoon versus 9 o'clock at night. The meal eaten later will have a bigger insulin response. And subsequently, insulin also is, again, the hormone that makes us store fat. So you want to have a low insulin level. So timing does matter. And then it's okay to skip breakfast. And also potentially a good time to use a protein shake. All right, now we get to mistake number 10. Having that all or none mentality, meaning that we're either all in or no, we're just falling off the wagon. Okay, this is a learning process. We make mistakes. We're human. We're not going to be perfect. And just realize we're not going to be perfect. We're going to make mistakes, and those dietary mistakes are real. We're going to do them all the time. Accept the mistakes, learn from that, and move on. Okay, you didn't gain the weight in one day or one meal or one bad week or even one bad month. It's time. It's what we do consistently over an extended period of time. And so kind of don't beat yourself up and have that all or none mentality. It's like, no, we want to learn from our mistakes. And then also kind of that's, typically these mistake situations are recurring themes, meaning that the same situations are where we struggle. So then it's figuring out, okay, if this is a situation where I struggle, where it is, going out for somebody's birthday, going to a movie, holidays, whatever it is, if these situations are going to keep coming up all the time throughout life. So if you know this situation is where I struggle, it's then setting up a plan that what am I going to do instead when that situation presents itself? This is what happened in this situation. How do I handle it next time? And having that plan in place. And that plan is going to evolve because you'll find that certain things work better for you than other things. And what works well for you may not work so well for the next person. So it's kind of figuring those things out, seeing where the mistakes are, what can I do about those mistakes, how do I avoid those mistakes, and how do I kind of then learn from this whole situation and get right back on track. Get right on back on track with the next meal. Don't beat yourself up about it. So in summary, to err is human. Yep, but it doesn't define your destiny. Okay? Don't let mistakes derail your weight loss plan. And that's why we're here. It's the Center for Weight Loss Success. We're here to help. If you need individual counseling, we can set that up. I'm not a good counselor. I can tell you this is what you need to do, kind of figuring out how the little nuances of doing those things. That's what some of the counselors are much better at than me. All right. I don't see any questions out there, but if you have questions, don't hesitate, pick up the phone, send an email, walk in the door. Hopefully you're stopping by and getting your body comp checked, again, preserving that lean body mass, getting rid of the fatty tissue. You should be logging into the membership portal, again, with that smartphone app. You just press the button, you're there, and you get access to all the kind of the weight loss tips, the weekly recipes, all the other things that are in that membership portal. Tune in each Tuesday, 6 o'clock for the next webinar. Watch your email for the invite and link. And remember, it's your life. Make it a healthy one. Have a good evening, everyone. Take care.